Greetings, this is the Grumpy Old Slan, and today we'll be looking at 6th level Druid spells in Unearthed Arcana. So as we can see from the list, there are 12 spells total, of which 2 are new. These are the ones we're going to be taking a look at today. So the first spell is Live Oak. It has a range of touch, a duration of 1 day per level. The area of effect will be 1 oak tree, and the casting time is 1 turn. This spell enables the druid to select a healthy oak tree and cast a Dwemer upon it so as to cause it to serve as a protector. The spell can be cast on but a single tree at a time, and while a live oak cast by a particular druid is in effect, he or she cannot cast another such spell. The tree upon which the Dwemer is cast must be within 10 feet of the druid's dwelling place, within a place sacred to the druid, or within 10 inches of something which the druid wishes to guard or protect. The live oak spell can be cast upon a healthy tree of small, medium, or large size according to desire and availability. A triggering phrase of up to a maximum of 1 word per level of the spellcaster is then placed upon the Dwemered oak. For instance, attack any persons who come near without first saying sacred mistletoe is an 11-word trigger phrase that could be used by a druid of 11th or higher level casting the spell. The live oak triggers the tree into becoming a treant of appropriate size and attack capability, matching the specifications of the monster manual description but with only a 3-inch movement rate. An oak enchanted by this spell will radiate a magic aura, and can be returned to normal by a successful casting of this spell magic, or upon the desire of the druid who enchanted it. The druid needs mistletoe to cast the spell. An odd spell, to be sure, one that clearly sets druids in a temperate climate, because you need oaks. It has a lot of restrictions on it, and they're very oddly phrased, so saying that the tree must be within 10 feet of the druid's dwelling place, in a place that's sacred to the druid, or within 10 inches of something which the druid wishes to guard or protect. Why not just put that last one there? Because if you put it near your dwelling place or a place sacred, it's to guard or protect it. The limitation of the triggering phrase seems to be odd. There's a lot of other spells that are triggered by events that don't have such a limitation on the word count. It's not something I'm very fond of in general. The limitation of only having it cast once is also quite odd. It weakens the spell in a way. I'd be more willing to live with it if the duration of the spell was significantly longer than only 1 day per level. That's not that long to protect a sacred place or your dwelling. Presumably you might want to cast this before leaving your grove. It's not mentioned here if you want to cast it a second time that you can remove the Dwemer from the initial casting without being present. I'm also wondering what will happen if you cast it on a tree which is close to where you live and then just tell the tree, come with me and obey my orders. That's a triggering phrase, and then from now on for the next 10, 11, 12 days, you have a treant moving slowly, admittedly, with a 3-inch movement rate, but you can ask it to follow you around. Could be done. So I'm not sure this spell warrants a 6th level spell slot, especially when I compare it to Wall of Thorns or Transport via Plants or the Anti-Animal Shell or Conjuring Fire Elemental. There's a lot of spells that feel much more powerful than just creating a guardian with serious limitations. I'm a bit ambivalent about this spell. I think there's some fun and interesting things that could be done with it, but several of the restrictions don't seem to accomplish much other than make the spell feel very weak for a 6th level spell. The next spell is Transmute Water to Dust. It has a range of 6 inches, has a permanent duration, and the area of effect is 1 cubic inch per level of the druid. When this spell is cast, the subject area instantly undergoes a change from liquid to powdery dust. Note that if the water is already muddy, the area of effect will be expanded to double normal, while if wet mud is concerned, the area of effect will be quadrupled. If water remains in contact with the transmuted dust, the former will quickly permeate the latter, turning the dust into silty mud if a sufficient quantity of water exists to do so, otherwise soaking or dampening the dust accordingly. Only liquid actually existing in the area of effect at the moment of spellcasting is affected. Liquids which are only partially water will be affected insofar as the actual water is concerned, except that potions which contain water as a component part will be rendered useless. Living creatures are unaffected, except those native to the elemental plane of water. Such creatures receive a saving throw versus spell to escape the effect, and only one such creature can be affected by any single casting of this spell, regardless of the creature's size or the size of the spell's area of effect. The reverse of the spell is simply a very high-powered create water spell, which requires a pinch of normal dust as an additional material component. For either usage of the spell, other components required are diamond dust of at least 500 gold pieces in value, a bit of seashell, and a druid's mistletoe. Now here's a spell to my liking. Very powerful if the druid is if the characters are dealing with armies. You can very much affect the terrain. You can also destroy a besieged group's water supply. The terrain could be made either easily passable or make sure people are bogged down. It would be nice to have a better idea of how much water the reverse of the spell will create, which isn't really explained. So my assumption would be that it would be 1 cubic inch per level of the caster, which is a lot of water. And again, could make terrain hard to cross, maybe not for a single person on foot taking their time, but certainly for an army. Let's refer to Agincourt. I'm not as fond of the fact that only one creature from the elemental plane of water is affected by a casting of the spell, no matter what the size is. Why not be able to affect multiple of them? Each of them being able to get a saving throw, of course. But I don't think there's a need to limit it to a single creature. You might be able to say one human-sized creature per level of the caster at the most, or equivalent, so kind of like the way fairy fire works, to make it a little bit more flexible and powerful. It is a 6th level spell. Though it does seem that whatever creature is affected just turns to dust and is so instantly destroyed. So it is one of those save versus instant death that a lot of AD&D seems to be fond of. We'll just do a quick recap. Live Oak I felt was fairly nerfed for a 6th level spell, and there are certain things that could be done to increase its power without disbalancing the game. If you're going to have a limit to the triggering phrase, then maybe the duration could be longer. Conversely, if that's the duration, why have a limit on the triggering phrase? You can give it a simple instruction. Transmute water to dust. Powerful spell. Gives the druid the ability to change the terrain, which is part of nature and so is very suitable for the druid. I quite like that spell. This has been the Grumpy Old Slan, looking at 6th level druid spells in Unearthed Arcana, and I'll see you next time.